Direct hit, you've made it this far. That means something here resonated with you, didn't it? Backhand index pointing right, so don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button now because what's coming next will challenge you, move you, and maybe even change you. Tap the bell to make sure you don't miss the stories that reveal hidden truths, spark real emotions, and end with twists that will leave you speechless. Speech balloon, you could come back later. But the feeling you have right now, you'll never get this exact moment again. Right arrow, subscribe now. One click and you're in. Miss it and you might regret it. The air in the motel was thick with the scent of mildew and remnants of fast food. Inexpensive soap rests in the bathroom. A cigarette burn marred the bedspread. A solitary lamp in the corner hummed softly, its faint buzz filling the silence. I found myself already wedged between them. One behind, one in front, with my back pressed firmly against his chest. The hands of the other man rested at my hips. Their skin radiated warmth. My body trembled uncontrollably. The air conditioning unit had ceased to function. Perhaps I was. One of them pressed their lips against mine with fervor, a sense of urgency in every touch. The other tightened their hold around my waist. Yet I remained still, not for lack of desire, but for the inability to do so. I had ventured too deep already. I had said, only if you take turns. And indeed they had. It hardly seemed like a transgression. It was as if I was surrendering to a desire I had long denied myself. I was not under the influence of alcohol. I acted of my own free will. I was there. I found myself wanting. That's the aspect I find difficult to articulate. Not for my own sake, to no one. I am 39 years old, just emerged from a recent divorce, feeling utterly detached. 15 months had passed since I had experienced a touch that conveyed warmth rather than pity. I reassured myself that I was improving. I simply required some time. Yet healing becomes a whisper. Loneliness creeps in. In that moment, two individuals regarded me not as a puzzle to be unraveled, but as a fire inviting them to draw near. Curiosity beckons you to uncover the identities of Henry and Zach. Fraternal bonds, not by blood. Brothers by choice, who never truly released their hold on one another after reaching adulthood. They were assisting me in renovating the cabin I acquired from the divorce. Endless days, jeans coated in a fine layer of dust, hands stained with paint. Silent resilience. Henry was the elder of the two, serene, observant. Zach continued to jest until he ceased to do so. They arrived each day for a span of 2 weeks. Regarded me as if I were truly human. Still married, strong and resilient. Not abandoned. Only I. A storm brought the motel into view. A fierce thunderstorm unleashed its fury the night following our removal of the drywall. The roads leading back to town were submerged in water. Henry proposed that we linger at the old roadside motel nearby. He mentioned it in a casual manner, as if it were devoid of any ammunition. I was aware of it. Yet I replied certainly. Nevertheless, I gathered a small bag. Yet I climbed into their truck, my heart racing as if I were 16 once more. The room contained 2 beds, yet only one remains etched in my memory. Initially, it was filled with laughter, soaked footwear. Zach is voicing his frustrations about the flickering light. A silence enveloped the space, radiating a comforting warmth, recognizable, perilous. Henry offered me a towel. His fingers grazed against mine. I lingered in his gaze for too long. Zach, still barefoot, reclined on the mattress and remarked, "This night is already strange. We may as well express our thoughts openly." My gaze fell upon him. Then at Henry. I uttered those words. Its origin remains a mystery to me. Only if you share the responsibility. The ensuing silence was brief. As Henry drew nearer, Zach propped himself up, the memory of whose hands first touched me eludes me. It was merely the trembling that consumed me. Both of them took note. One pressed their lips against my collarbone. The other raised my shirt, as if it were a sacred ritual. My breath was sharp and quick. My legs opened instinctively. Silence enveloped the space. Only motion, simply breathe. Skin gliding over skin. Fingers gliding across ribs. The bed creaked softly as the weight shifted. A subtle reminder of the moment's intimacy. It was not difficult. It lacked any semblance of romance. The urgency was palpable. It felt as though all three of us were grasping something fractured, unsure of how to bear its weight alone any longer. The warmth of Henry's chest pressed against my back lingers in my memory, the rough timbre of Zach's voice as he groaned against my neck. Their hands a steady force, never clashing but rather cradling me with unwavering support. One reached out, while the other observed, and I allowed it to happen. For the simple reason that I desired to. Due to necessity, I was not shedding tears. Yet I could have. It lacked any sense of filth. It was as if someone truly recognized me. It was a longing so profound it pierced the soul. The second bed remained untouched. We never delved into its significance. Only entwined limbs, hushed breaths, and the scent of sweat lingering in the night air. And amidst the chaos, a part of me shattered wide open. What actions would you take if the sole individual who restored your sense of completeness was the very person you were advised to avoid? What if there were two of them? What if, instead of shattering you, touching them resurrected your very essence? I find myself uncertain about what this signifies for me. I find myself uncertain about the narrative I'm weaving in this moment. Yet, I am certain that evening in that motel did not carry the weight of wrongdoing. It was as vital as the air we breathe. Perhaps that is the aspect I find hardest to absolve. If you've ever grasped for something, fully aware of the potential devastation it could bring, all for the sake of feeling truly alive, then this tale will not come easily to you. Show your support and hit that subscribe button. Certain truths whisper softly, yet their presence is impossible to overlook. In the week that followed our time at the motel, I found myself silent, not uttering a word to either of them. I received a text from Henry and I found myself staring at it for hours before finally deciding to delete the notification. Zach's silence stung in a way that words never could. I convinced myself it was merely an error, a consequence of the tempest, the low-quality vodka, a result of my solitude and mental disarray. Yet, none of it held any truth. No, not at all. I had desired them. I continued to do so. The cabin was meant to be my new beginning. Perched on a serene slope at the fringe of Pine Hollow, a mere 30 minutes from the nearest town, it was enveloped by trees that shielded it from the outside world. I purchased it with the remnants of the settlement funds. Initially, there was no running water. Splintered porch, walls within the interior that required complete renovation. I was indifferent. Silence was what I craved. I yearned for something that truly belonged to me. Company was the last thing on my mind. It was at the hardware store that I first crossed paths with Henry. Upon hearing my inquiry about patching drywall, he graciously extended his offer to assist. 2 days later, Zach arrived with a ladder in tow and a broad grin on his face. It possessed kindness, capability, and a refreshing simplicity. I had the same impression. Yet, kindness can bear a certain sharpness when one has not felt a gentle touch in more than a year. Particularly when such kindness is offered by hands capable of lifting you as effortlessly as a box of nails, and eyes that gaze upon you as if you are not shattered, merely poised for reconstruction. My marriage concluded with a whisper. Absolutely no cheating, no shouting. Two individuals gradually losing the ability to be gentle with one another. He ceased to inquire about my well-being. I ceased to anticipate his awareness of my refusal to eat. We halted our contact, enveloped in silence, each of us choosing not to speak. The ultimate breaking point was insignificant. It was merely a Tuesday morning as I observed him depart for work, and in that moment, I recognized my indifference to whether he returned. In the aftermath of the divorce, the familiar chorus of comments echoed around me. Time will be a healer. Concentrate on your own journey. You possess a strength beyond your own perception. Yet, no one mentions that the journey of healing can often feel quite mundane. The days stretch on, filled with endless cycles of laundry and a profound sense of solitude, of drifting into slumber with the television aglow, merely to stave off the silence that envelopes your home. No one warns you that there are moments when you trade anything just to feel desired, even if only for a fleeting time, even if it unravels you in the end. The morning following my stay at the motel, I found myself seated on the front porch of the cabin, cradling a mug of coffee as I gazed out at the woods. The silence enveloped the surroundings, excessively silent. I found myself anticipating the arrival of one of them, waiting for the sound of tires on gravel. To act as if nothing occurred, inquire about the upcoming stage of the renovation. Yet there was nothing. Only silence, only I. That emptiness resonated more profoundly than anything else. By Friday, I reached my breaking point. I navigated my way into town. I wandered into the hardware store, seeking a touch of humanity. And there he stood, Henry Jamin. He caught sight of me, showed no sign of hesitation. There was no smile. He merely uttered a casual greeting, "Hey," and approached as if we were still the same people we once were. Yet we were not. "I believed we would complete the trim this week," he remarked. "I assumed you had given up. I was unaware of your desires." As I gazed at my hands, a sense of contemplation washed over me. Chapped knuckles, faded and worn nail polish. I was unaware as well. He gave a slight nod, uttered not a word. After a moment's pause, Zach has fallen silent as well. I gave a subtle nod. Perhaps we have shattered something. Henry's voice remained hushed. It seems we may have stumbled upon something intriguing. As I made my way home that night, the cool breeze flowed through my open windows. The wind brushed against my face, and in that moment, I became aware of the tears streaming down my cheeks. Not weeping, merely shedding tears. For the first time in months, someone gazed at me without recoiling from what I had become. 2 days later, they returned. Both of them, standing on my porch as if the storm had never occurred. Henry gripped the drill firmly in his hand. Zach arrived with a bag filled with screws and a box of donuts. "Back to work," Zach remarked, arching an eyebrow. I gave a slight nod. Yet my hands trembled, because I realized we were no longer merely reconstructing the cabin. A new chapter had begun. There was a concept I lacked the words to express. That afternoon, we toiled as if the world around us had remained untouched by the events that had transpired. Baseboards stripped bare. Measured the new paneling. Shared a laugh over the broken outlet in the back room. Yet, each time they walked by, I couldn't help but flinch. Not out of fear, but from the depths of memory. As Zach's arm grazed against mine, I felt a sudden hitch in my breath. Henry's voice echoed from behind me, sending a twist of unease through my stomach. And then it began anew. Henry leaned in just a tad too close as he demonstrated how to hold the level. Zach passed me a rag, his fingers brushing against mine for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. The atmosphere grew dense once more, scorching, weighty. Yet silence reigned supreme, for we were all aware of the events that had unfolded. We were at a loss for how to handle it. That evening, I found myself seated on the floor of the incomplete bedroom, my gaze fixed on the wall. My hands throbbed with discomfort. My chest ached increasingly, for I understood that this was far from finished. I found myself unprepared to bring it to a halt. For the following 3 weeks, they arrived each day without fail. Henry arrives in the morning, always punctual and steady. Zach arrived later, typically after lunch, always armed with some excuse about truck trouble. A call from his cousin, a forgotten errand lingering in the back of his mind. Yet I understood the reason for his pause. He seemed reluctant to be alone with me. Not at this moment. Henry maintained his composure and professionalism. Yet I sensed the way he hesitated, his fingers brushing against mine as he passed me the tools. Zach initially averted his gaze, until he ceased to do so. One afternoon, I entered the kitchen to discover Zach casually leaning against the counter. His forearms bore the marks of paint. Without gloves, without a shirt, I pulled open the fridge door. I feigned ignorance to his gaze upon me. He remarked, "You always fall silent when something's brewing." I pivoted gradually. "What do you believe is taking shape?" He remained silent, merely offered a wistful smile. I stepped out of the room. Yet I was certain he had experienced it as well. Next, we turned our attention to the bathroom. Compact area. Just enough space for a couple of individuals. Henry knelt by the sink, diligently installing the new vanity. I maneuvered past him to seize the drill. Without glancing, he extended his hand and grasped my wrist. Grasped it firmly, only for a moment, and whispered, "Don't think I haven't been attempting to erase that night from my memory." He kept